So, what is your full name?
Mohammad Wasim Khan,
All right. Where were you born?
Pakistan.
How long were you, or how long were you in Pakistan before you moved to the U.S.?
I moved to US in '93. I was 29 years old.
Where were you during 9/11?
I was at home. Well, in fact, I was at work in Denver, in Denver Tech Center to be exact.
What would a typical day have been like before 9/11?
I'll just go to the office, work from office, sometimes work from home, pick up one of my kids, go back to my home, probably play squash sometime during the day. What exactly, it was just a very ordinary, very typical kind of a day. But of course, what happened in the morning was, of course, a big exception. And I still remember exactly, where I was and how I was informed and what happened exactly after that.
Do you remember your reaction of the news of like when it happened, like when you saw it on the news or you heard it?
Yes, I think I do a little bit. I was, of course, very shocked, and I didn't know exactly the details of what happened. I think I just was walking by an aisle, and there was a lady. She mentioned that. I asked her, "How are you doing?" And she said, "I could be doing better." And I said, "Well," and then she explained that this is what had happened, and I didn't know the details. I wasn't watching TV, but I was shocked and I was very worried. Of course, I remember everybody kind of packed up and started leaving, and I was one of them. This is IBM, by the way.
Did your daily routine or just day-to-day things in your life change after 9/11?
Yes, of course. Right after 9/11, for quite a few days, we stayed home. We didn't go anywhere, and by we I mean my wife and my kids, myself. Just like every other American, we were very shocked. We were scared. We didn't know exactly what's going to happen. And it was a very, I remember for days, we weren't, of course we were very concerned about, what could happen to Muslim people after 9/11. But I remember for me, what is unforgettable is the event, when we were watching that video, planes crashing into buildings, and that whole thing was very, it was something that was keeping us all terrorized. I remember it was something that we weren't able to get over. And of course, there was this aspect of what could happen after that, but I'm not sure if I'm able to express that very clearly. That for me, the concern or the fear or the anxiety about what could happen to Muslim people was much less than what I was able to see and feel, and it was like, what is this? It was something that was like nobody had probably ever imagined. It was like a nuclear bomb or something.
Do you feel that people's attitude changed towards either you specifically or your family or people in your community, in your mosque? Or
Um, yes, of course, people, 9/11 changed, of course, a lot of things. Um, I think I'm trying to understand where you're coming from. As far as people's attitude towards me being a Muslim person is concerned, there was a change, but there was always that feeling of being different. And what what I think 9/11 did was that people use the word discrimination, but I think discrimination, I'm not sure if it's the right word, but what I think it did was it kind of erected a wall between the non-Muslim people and the Muslim people. So if there was any, and I shouldn't use the word if there was any, I mean there are still a lot of opportunities for these things to go behind us, and I think for the most part they are behind us, and I think things have improved significantly. But if I remember correctly, the immediate response was some of my colleagues, they sent me emails, are you okay? Is your family okay? Do you need any help? And I think there were quite a few people who did that. And I remember people from the neighborhood, where we had the mosque, people from that neighborhood, they came over with the same kind of a message that they wanted to make sure that we were not feeling completely unprotected. They showed strength with us. The governor, Mr. Bill Owens, he showed up. And so we had, of course, very significant insecurities, but your question was that what exactly happened after that, and my recollection is that the response we got from people that we worked with, people that we lived with, people that we were governed by, was a very supportive and good response. I think it made a difference, not in the short term, but also in the long term. Now I would add that, of course, there are always individuals and groups within any country, within any nation, within any society, that out of any reason, whether that is a personal reason, a personal kind of a beneficial kind of a reason, or it's just pure hatred towards a certain group, they always would like to drive things in a direction where that conflict and that environment of harmony and reconciliation is damaged. And what I remember that right after 9/11, that those forces got a lot of strength, and for about quite a few years, I as a person can say that to me it was just like a one-sided world war had been declared on Muslims. And it was more from what I could see in the media than what I could feel by going to work or talking to my neighbor or going to my kids' school. But when I watched the TV and when I watched the politicians talking, and I watched anybody who could disseminate information to much larger people, there was never anything for years where I could see that there was some wisdom and there was some enthusiasm, some reason to really go beyond just incitement.
So, but you feel like in your community, you felt it actually kind of like brought you closer together with some people, right? After
Yes.
the incident.
Yes.
That's good. Do you feel that you personally have ever been discriminated against because you're a Muslim? You're
Yes.
from Pakistan.
Mm-hmm.
could you share that experience of like how you felt discriminated against? I mean, if you want to.
Uh, my experiences of getting not discriminated are a lot more than my experiences of getting discriminated. If I were to share my experience of, what my experience has been over the last 2 decades here in Denver and in the US, I've been here since I came to the US. It's way, way, way positive than a few exceptions of discrimination. And discrimination is something that I was experiencing even when I was in my country of origin. In fact, in a lot of ways I was experiencing more discrimination. But if you're keen on finding out what happened to me personally, well, a little after 9/11 I lost my job. My wife lost her job, but I think my wife's job had nothing to do with she being a Muslim. I think mine had quite a bit. And I had a very hard time finding another job. But then I gave up on finding another job, and it was one of the non-Muslim ladies, American lady, that I networked with and I socialized with. And she hired me and she gave me the opportunity to establish my business, and by the grace of God I was able to make up many more times than the few months that I had lost or that I was delayed in getting another job. I mean, there are experiences, small and some significant, where yes, I did feel discrimination. But as I said, I come in, and if you have not been outside the United States, you don't know exactly how much discrimination is there. And discrimination where discriminating against people exactly of your own kind. So when you come here and you see that you're so different, and yet the discrimination is same or significantly less than what you were experiencing prior to coming to the US, you know that, and I'll also say this, that if we can't fix things, if we can't eliminate or significantly reduce these barriers between Muslim people and Christian people and Muslim people and Jewish people here in the United States, then probably we can't do it anywhere else. This is the place where this can be done. And if the leadership, and I don't mean the presidents and all the time, but I mean people who have any influence over things, if they understand the opportunity they have to reconcile these differences, because simply of the fact that they live in the United States, they should understand this opportunity, they should take this opportunity and try to drive things in different direction rather than, and it comes from many different sources, it's,
if you like, we can. Would you like to talk about like the positives of not like 9/11 obviously, but like the positives of like your life today and like how you've like grown and like what you've seen from the country?
Yes.
Please.
I mean, I came here in 1993 to do my MBA from University of Denver, and when I look back, whether it was my academic capability or my intellectual capability or my physical capability or my social capability, or I mean, when I look back and I look at each and every dimension, each and every aspect of human life that is important and that contributes to being a better individual and being a better unit within the larger society, I see that I have improved, I have gained exponentially by making that decision to come to the United States. And 9/11 did not change that. It was a big accident, it was a big negative experience, but it did not prevent that opportunity that I was given here and that I was able to tap on here in the United States. I say that it is one of the two best decisions I have ever made, coming to the United States. The second best decision is marrying whom I'm married to.
After 9/11, there was a lot of laws implemented, like such as like the Patriot Act and the NSEERS, right? And it's like in quote like legal discrimination, right? Where it's like they can discriminate certain people like under the law. It kind of happened during World War II and like the Japanese internment, right? So I just want to hear your opinion. Do you think it's morally acceptable to discriminate like a group of people in like quote unquote for like the safety of the country?
No, I don't agree with that. That's not acceptable. But I'll tell you that I have never been bothered by anybody except, a few times on the airport. I got a little more consistently picked up. But, there was a process. I was told that if I followed that process, then that won't happen. And I did that, and it didn't happen again. But all these acts that you're referring to, I know that they're there. But I'll tell you that during the last 20 years, I have never been approached by any law enforcement agency or any intelligence agency or anybody ever. Nobody has ever called me, nobody has shown up at my door, nobody has ever stopped me, nobody has ever bothered me or my family all this time. And I've been very actively involved in the mosque, and I was very actively involved in the Islamic school of my children. And if these laws exist, I guess their implementation is not violating the basic American values and the real American experience. Now I don't know. I've never really done any research or have been involved in finding out exactly what these laws are and what kind of leverage they're providing to prevent certain acts of terrorism from happening. So I can't comment on those, but I'm just sharing my own experience.
So like, you don't feel your liberty was jeopardized in any way? That's, have you ever like met another Muslim, maybe like from the mosque or like somewhere else, that has been discriminated against?
Discriminated against what? I mean, I'm trying to understand what exactly would you consider discrimination.
So they're like judged differently, like maybe not so much like they're looked at differently, but I guess they could like fit in, but maybe they don't get like the same service when they go to like the store.
That I would say I and my family experience too. I won't say very often, but I would say even sometimes there are times when I would say very often. I don't care too much about that, to be honest with you. I mean, if there is a clerk in a supermarket or I don't pay too much attention. I don't take that very seriously unless I find out that this person is doing something that's kind of over the line, that's like, they're now kind of just doing some injustice to me, then I would speak up. But If they show an attitude, I mean, I can ignore them. I don't take that seriously, you know. I would consider discrimination if you were prevented or blocked from opportunities that are otherwise available to other people, despite your competitiveness, despite your merit, or if you know, there is this institutionalized message, a derogatory message, or a culture that is being enforced by the highest leadership. I really don't see that, you know. And I'm also not a very social person. Me and my family, we kind of just, we don't like try to test the discrimination gauge very often. We kind of just, you know, stay home and do our stuff, and we don't feel bad, we don't feel discriminated, we're okay.
So, you've heard of the Patriot Act, right?
Yes.
Do you know what that act is? I'm a little fuzzy on it, so I'd have Scott explain it.
Yes, Scott, please.
So, from what I've researched about it, it's within the title, it has some sort of description on enhancing the power of the government to prevent terrorist attacks, and in it kind of has some ability to legally discriminate, which is what some people call it, against foreign people to prevent terrorism. Do you think that? Do you have any opinions on that?
You know, I trust that the people who have enacted this law, because see, I'm an ordinary person. I have very limited information. I have information that I get from public sources, CNN, or, you know, and I don't even seek those very peculiar kind of information sources. I go with the very generic one. So it's hard for me to judge what value these laws, this legislation would provide to, you know, proactively prevent something like 9/11 or something of a much lesser scale. If it does, you know, if I were holding a position of power and I was responsible for the safety and protection of people, and of course I'll have a lot more information to make a decision as to, you know, where we're crossing the lines of freedom and justice. These are the lines which never cross, by the way. This is the best thing about America: freedom and justice. But at the same time, you know, if we know that there are certain things that could really make that freedom and justice, like if there is a way for us to fine-tune where we are able to sustain freedom and justice without really unnecessarily bothering normal citizens, we should be able to do that. And I told you, I've never been bothered. I've never been approached by anybody who said, you know, we think you are a board member of such and such mosque, or you were a board member of such and such Islamic school, or that you're from Peshawar, you're right on the border of Afghanistan and Pakistan, and that you are a hunter, you hunt deer, and that, you know, I have guns, I hunt, I've been hunting since, I don't know, for a long time. So I've never been bothered by anybody. If these laws are there, I don't know exactly, you know, what they do or what they don't do. But as far as their implementation is concerned, I don't know anybody in my immediate circle or even in the larger circle that somebody showed up at their door and said, "Hey, you know, why don't you just go with us and we want to ask you some questions, you know." I have 4 other colleagues at the board that I serve on. Far from anything like this. You know, we're all hard-working people with, I think, pretty exceptional kind of education and professional experience and all that. And, you know, I'm very limited in my knowledge of patriot law or, you know, how these things work. So I'm kind of just reluctant to comment exactly, you know, good or bad. But from my own personal experience, I can tell you that the implementation of law has not infringed upon me in a negative way.
Do you think like people might maybe not treat you the same if you were a Muslim of less wealth than you would be if like a Muslim with wealth?
I really don't think so. See, Muslim people, you know, being a Muslim and being not a wealthy person, I think, in my humble understanding, they're mutually exclusive things. If we see a guy, you know, a non-Muslim person, ethnically from the most privileged ethnicity of this country, you know, showing up with a beat-up truck with a lot of tobacco in his mouth and, you know, dirty clothes, I'm sure that, you know, people would be very concerned about him being very close to them. On the other hand, a Muslim guy, you know, with a beard, you know, showing up in a pretty beat-up car, but a less intimidating image. I'm just saying that this from my own experience, that a lot of people would feel more comfortable with him. But I can understand that, you know, your looks and your profile, your apparent profile, definitely has an impact. You have to stay from any extreme, and, you know, just completely dressing up like, you know, with a turban and a big thobe and you know, a shalwar kameez, or, you know, these are the things that would definitely, I mean, these are the things that could create problems. See, because I come from another country, I was born and raised in a different country, I've seen a lot of other things. I mean, I take it this way, that in those mountainous areas that I'm originally from, if one of you guys come with me and you are wearing the regular dress of that area of land, they'll know that you're not from here, but you'll still be very much accommodated, welcome. They'll show a lot of hospitality to you. But if you show up in a tuxedo there, and you know, of course you will stand out very significantly. So I think, I'm not sure exactly if I'm answering the question, but I'm just kind of just extending your question a little bit more from the wealth to the appearance. That, you know, when you are in a country, you have to understand the ambience, you have to understand what the larger culture is, and of course there are certain things you don't want to change, and you can't change. And my experience is that I don't see anybody telling me that you have to change, otherwise you can't live here. I mean, I pray, I fast, I go to Hajj, I have a mosque, or I'm in the process of having a mosque, and, you know, if I need to take a break to pray my Friday prayers, nobody over all this time, 20 years, have ever objected that. So no, you know, Sorry, I didn't. I kind of just
That was perfect, actually.
Okay.
It's fantastic. I just have one more question. What to you does it mean to be a Muslim?
Everything. I, as a human being, would be very would be so void of the values, the understanding of life, the understanding of how I should carry myself on this face of the earth. For me, being Muslim is like everything. It tells me how to have my relationship with my Creator. It tells me how to have my relationship with fellow human beings, whether those are my family, whether those are my neighbors, whether those are the largest circle that I'm in. It tells me what kind of relationship or what kind of obligations I have even to plants and other living and non-living creatures. So it's such an all-inclusive, all-encompassing code of life that it changed the world 1400 years back. Recent 10, 12, 50 years experiences should not gauge the true value, the true message of this religion.
And just like one follow-up question. Being a Muslim is everything like what you said. So could I get your opinion on like violence and just like war?
Yes. My opinion on violence and war. They're two different things, by the way, and in some ways they're the same thing. Well, I know for sure that violence and war is no solution to any problem. The only time I think it is a solution is when you have to defend yourself. I mean, if somebody's trying to hurt you, as a country, as a family, as an individual, you have to defend yourself. You can't let that person or that entity hurt you. In that case, violence is, or your defense is of course permissible. Any other form of violence is injustice, is oppression, is just like creating short-term and long-term problems. And it is the duty of every individual, of every government, of every body to prevent that kind of violence, offensive violence. And violence is not just violence with hands or with bombs or with weapons. Violence is also, words, and you can hurt a lot of people by saying a lot of bad things to them. I think that is violence too. And it shouldn't go unchecked because it has more or less the same impact that the violence with brutal force or with more conventional form of violence.
Can't thank you enough.
Yes,
Thank you very
you.
much.
Okay,
Pleasure.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.